Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the One Hub Racing YouTube channel. It is the turn of the Precision tier to take centre stage for round 8 of season 17 around the Hanoi street circuit here for the Vietnam Grand Prix, where the title could potentially, it's not very likely, but it potentially could be decided tonight. My name is Jake, and I'm joined once again by Liam. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. We are back once again with Precision tier and hopefully back with a bang. So let's see if Vietnam causes some chaos, hopefully.
In a strange sort of way, the Precision tier has actually been remarkably short of bangs. The steward's office has been getting a clean bill from the Precision tier last few weeks, so let's hope that continues here. Just want to say before we get into this, a big thank you to all our sponsors. We've got Next Level Racing, who will be providing rigs to the winner of the Going Gets Tough award. You can follow them on Twitter at NextLVL Racing. We've also got Liam13, who is sponsoring the trophies this year. If you want to check him out, you can do so at his Twitch. That is twitch.tv/LiamRBS. We also have Vespertin, who are a new sponsor for this season, who are supporting all the One Hub prizes. And we also have a brand new sponsor as well in Time to Print 3D, who are producing keyrings for every track we are racing at. And yeah, massive thank you to all of their sponsors. We couldn't do this without them. And hopefully we can bring you a great show tonight. A track where, well, certainly from what I witnessed in the prospect here, could see quite a few moments of drama, I would say.
Yeah, there's unlike most street circuits, I'd say Vietnam has quite a few overtaking opportunities, especially at the end of the very long straights that we have here.
Absolutely, yeah, 3 DRS zones and at least two massive straights where overtaking is quite easy, really, compared to what street circuits you usually think about. But it's a very strange track, this one, because you've got those long straights, but then in the last sector you've got that very technical, fast-flowing section, which is almost a bit like Suzuka and Austin, but with walls very close.
Yeah, it's like the track designer decided to put together a mix of Austin, Suzuka, and Baku, basically, and came out with this. So that pretty much describes Vietnam for you.
And one of the strange characteristics about this track is that this is our second time here racing with One Hub tonight. But in real life, they've never actually driven this track, unfortunately. It's not going to happen. They're still holding out hope that we could have a race here in the future. But yeah, One Hub is where you see most of the action at Vietnam. To give you a bit of background about the track, it's 3.48 miles counterclockwise, which is very, very rare indeed. You've got 23 corners with 11 to the left and 12 to the right. We've got a 28 lap race in front of us, which is a reasonably long race, although it's not the shortest lap, but it's also not the longest either. Probably about a minute 32 or 33 you'd probably expect for pole position. Based on what we've seen recently in the Precision tier, thinking about who potentially could win this evening, the first name that springs to my mind, I don't know about you, is Bryn.
Yep, Bryn is proven last week that he definitely can handle the pressure of leading the race from basically start to finish, while he's got the championship leader Jay Fletcher hunting him down. But there's a few other drivers in this who have proven that they can win races. Well, especially Jay Fletcher, who's been very consistent over the course of the season. But also Chris in the Ferrari has shown that he's a very quick driver and is not to be overlooked.
No, absolutely not. Jay Fletcher's had an absolutely spectacular season, comes into this round with a 30-point lead in the championship and can theoretically seal it this evening, although it would take quite a series of results for that to happen. I won't go too much into the permutations because it's incredibly confusing, but essentially if it gets to a point in the race where I feel like those permutations could happen, then I will bring it up then, but it's highly unlikely. But this is the sort of track where anything can happen, and then I have to say, if Jay Fletcher's 30-point lead is going to be closed down on, this really is the sort of track where it could happen.
Yeah, can't wait. Well, we're loading in now, so qualifying's about to begin. I wonder, the question is, will we get any rain here? Because Vietnam is quite well. It's certainly a place where you can expect quite a bit of rain. And it's going to be dry in qualifying, but we'll need to wait and see what the drivers are saying about the race.
Absolutely, and it's gonna be interesting to see. A lot of drivers aren't the biggest fan of this track. Reading some of the media day coverage, the likes of Hindle, Rimpe, Jonas, among many others, really don't like this track. Is it difficult sometimes to perform well at a track you don't like?
Kind of. I think it's, if you don't like a track, that you really don't want to race around it, so you kind of avoid it as much as possible. But I think if you're going to have a league race around it, you've got to put the practice in. So as long as you put the practice in, you should be fine.
On board with Jonas, who is the first driver out on track in the Red Bull. He is one of the drivers that hates the circuit, but he did actually mention, looking ahead to next season, he's currently uses automatic gears, but he may switch to using manual for next season. If he can master that, potentially, what sort of pace gain do you think he would get from that?
I'd expect possibly a few tenths improvement, because automatic gears isn't the most crucial of assists to get rid of. Unlike traction control, you can gain quite a bit of time. You can improve your pace quite a bit if you master no traction control, but you'll still get a decent amount of time gain.
He could be under pressure for his Red Bull seat next year, Jonas. Not had the best of seasons, only 18 points to his name. He's ahead of his teammate at the moment, but Red Bull being considerably outperformed in the Constructors by AlphaTauri, and that's something Red Bull would not really want to see coming into this. The Constructors battle is very, very close at the moment. We've got just 7 points separating Mercedes and Ferrari at the top, and it's an interesting one really, because you've got Jay Fletcher and Nick versus Scorpion and Chris. I've got to say, that's a really tough one to call.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight battle for the Constructors as well as the Championship, so we're guaranteed at least a few more weeks of entertainment and title drama, hopefully.
I absolutely think so. I think, like I said, although it can be decided tonight for Drivers' Championship, I do think it's most likely going to go to at least next week, where we are racing at Mexico. Jonas just coming through the first sector now. A lot of technical corners around this sort of part of the track, sector 2, but then once you get through this long left-hander, you head on to one of the tracks, probably the longest straight on the track, where we're probably going to see the most overtaking throughout this race tonight. So it should be an interesting one, because it's an easy track to overtake on, so it's not like the most conventional of street circuits in that regard. And
yeah, to be honest, I think they put quite a lot of thought into being able to overtake another car when they were designing this, to be honest.
I was actually going to mention as well, last season, of course, One Hub raced around this track last season. The precision tier pole time last season was a 33.9. I was going to ask you if you think that's going to be beaten, but I'm pretty sure that got beaten in Prospect, so I think it did 33.7, I think we saw from Apex Rogue in Prospect. So based off that, what sort of pole time do you think we'll be looking at in this tier?
Possibly, I think we might be seeing low 33s to high 32s, maybe mid 32s. I don't know. I'm not quite sure, because I haven't checked the pole time for podium tier.
Well, Jay Fletcher's already beaten the Prospect pole time at least. He's done a 33.5 to go quickest of his first effort, and following on from last week really, we saw early on in qualifying, Jay Fletcher's very quick to get up to speed.
Yeah, he's shown once again that he's that he's deserving to lead the championship. Just right from the bat, he's not really sandbagging at all. He's putting the foot to the floor really. But Scorpion's only 2 tenths behind in the Ferrari. Same with Bryn and Nick really, as Chris is just over a tenth off the Mercedes man, so it's looking quite a close battle for pole here.
super close times early on, and a lot of those drivers currently just behind Jay Fletcher are drivers that can still beat him to a championship. The two Ferraris are definitely among them. Bryn still has a mathematical chance, but I have to say his early season form, it's probably a little bit too much to ask now for him to go on and win the title from here, but nevertheless, his form has been excellent of late.
Yeah, definitely. Too bad he wasn't quite able to show this form near the start of the season, but it shows how he's really gained after switching to, well, because he said earlier in the season that he'd switched to no assists, so it's really showing how much time he's gained from that no assists.
He mentioned as well in the build to this that he did previously have line off, but he has turned that back on now since he's gone to the wheels. So maybe that bit of familiarity with the racing line being on is helping him out a little bit. And I think around a track like this, having racing line on's not the worst thing to do, because as we've not seen it in real life, I often find that it's a little bit more difficult to get your rhythm around these sort of tracks.
Yeah, if we've never really seen the F1 cars go around it in real life, it's kind of hard to know what to expect really when you come to a track like this. It's designed really to promote overtaking quite a lot, but also to provide quite a challenge to the drivers. So you have to really kind of base it off the F1 games and kind of league racing, but you've also got to take that, look at it with a bit of realism as well.
And speaking about this final sector again briefly, how difficult is it to follow another car through that final part of the lap?
From my experience, dirt air wasn't too bad. If you can get your lines right through the corners, then you should be okay to follow the car behind for a little bit of time, because it's not too many fast corners. It's mostly medium and then a few lower speed corners as well at the end, so not too hard to stay with the car in front for that final sector.
And Ferrari were actually called into the team's press conference this week. It's a good start for Ferrari, one they needed, because they didn't have a great time of it last week, not just in this tier, across quite a few of the tiers actually. But they're still in constructors contention, and they're hoping that they can get strong results here to put that charge back on track, and it's a good start for them up in second and third. They might not like the fact there's a Mercedes in first and fifth though, but I get the feeling that but Nick could actually be quite the deciding factor here, because Chris and Scorpion are very evenly matched, but Jay Fletcher has got the majority of Mercedes points this season, so it could really come down to how well Nick can sort of back up Jay Fletcher's point scoring.
Yeah, you're going to. I think. Sorry, I definitely agree with you there. It's going to come down to how well Nick can keep up with his teammate and get as many points on the board as he can for that Mercedes team, if he wants to help them secure that constructors title.
Drivers back out for their second attempts.
Nosey starting a lap.
Following Knowlesy around yet to do a lap time. Looks like he ran a little bit deep into the first corner. And then now through this turn, which I've certainly found is very frustrating. You just want to get on the power much earlier than you really should do. It's one of those. It reminds me a lot of the first corner at China, actually. It just never seems to end.
Yeah, it's one of those corners that seem to go on forever, really, and you're just desperate to get the power down, but you've got to be patient enough as well. Same with this left-hander going on to the back straight. You want to get the power down as early as possible, but you've also got to try and get the car through that tightening left-hander and get the best run possible onto the straight.
Knowlesy now heading down this really long straight. Not much of it is straight, but I don't think you'd ever need to lift off the throttle. Certainly not even in the wet, I wouldn't have thought, to be honest. They're just very slight kinks, really, as Knowlesy heads through the second sector now, and it's a decent Sector 2 split time. I wouldn't say it's about to go into pole position or anything, but there's a sort of big gap between Nick and Jonas at the moment, which this lap time could sort of squeeze into. So that will be P6, depending how his final sector develops for Knowlesy. Of course, former Pinnacle tier driver. Didn't have the best times in Pinnacle, but looks to have enjoyed his time in Precision so far. Doing very well in the championship and can still win the title. Knowlesy across the line. He goes up to 6th. That was a really nice final sector, actually, and he's joined one of many cars in that 33.7 bracket.
Yeah, everybody seems to be, quite a few cars seem to be matching the pole time set in Prospect at the moment. I imagine that time will go down shortly, as Nick is about to start his flying lap.
And Jay Fletcher
goes even faster with a 33.1, so we could be seeing the high 32s here.
Jay Fletcher again just nibbling away at his time. We saw last week that Bryn at the last suddenly got a lap time out of nowhere to deny him. Chris improves but stays second, 0.3 slower than Jay Fletcher. What's Bryn up to? He's just coming up to the end of Sector 2 now. And he's on a very good lap by the looks of things, so he could potentially join him on the front row. But Tom Robbo has actually just got up to second, actually. Didn't notice that one, but nice lap from Tom there, popping it on the front row. And he's one driver who looked like he was going to be Jay Fletcher's biggest rival a couple of weeks ago, but in recent weeks things just haven't gone according to plan for Tom.
Yeah, the consistency just really hasn't been there for Tom Robbo recently, especially last week, as Bren goes P2 for 33.2, so showing that he's definitely got the pace to keep up with Jay Fletcher here.
I don't know if it was a bit of mind games on the media day yesterday, but Bryn was quoted as saying he believes Josh is too quick at this track for him to get a win. How do you read those comments?
I think we'll have to wait and see how this plays out on track. It could be mind games. Well, I expect it's a bit of mind games from Bryn, but I think we'll have to wait and see as Nick is coming through the final corner now. What's it going to be? It's a 1 minute 33.6, so it's P5 again for the Mercedes van.
And talking about that Constructors battle, splitting the Ferraris, that's an important job for Nick, and I don't think Toto Wolff will mind where Nick's put his car there, right in between them.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to have Toto Wolff smiling a bit on the pit wall, knowing that he's split the Ferraris.
Who have we got on a lap at the moment who's potentially about to finish their lap? Got Keke is coming up to the end of Sector 2 in the Renault. And how's he doing on this lap? It's a massive improvement on his previous lap, so this could jump him up a fair few positions. Been a difficult season for the two Renaults. Keke and Kajman always seem to be teammates together, certainly from when I've watched them. Well, this season hasn't really gone according to plan, but this is one of those circuits where if you're having a bad season, just staying out of trouble here could just be the key to getting a lot of points tonight.
Yep. Well, it's the same with all street circuits. You keep out the barriers, you get a good result, and it's a 134.4 there. I think that little slide coming out of the penultimate corner costing a few tenths there. So I definitely know he can go faster, as we've got just under 5 minutes to go, so we should expect to see a few people coming out, hopefully, for their last few flying laps. I think we have Vahanen and Schnitzel both on their out laps at the moment.
And speaking of Renault, Kajman has just jumped above his teammate Okeke with his lap of 34.2 to go up to 8th place now. So decent couple of efforts there from Renault as in the 8th and 9th positions, and starting, I don't think I'd be too disappointed if he ended up starting 11th and 12th, because of course you then have the freedom to start on whichever tyres you choose.
Yeah, I don't think the freedom of tyre choice will matter too much around here, considering it is mostly just, it is a soft, medium, soft strategy, so I don't think it matters. You might be able to mix it up a bit and go in mediums to start, but it might play a big part of keeping him out of trouble on the first lap.
Yeah, of course, mandatory 2-stop here at one hub, and the hard tyres are probably not going to see that much usage. They're on average 7/10 a lap slower than the mediums, and they only actually last 4 laps more, so really the trade-off isn't that great, so you probably are better off. I think the only real reason you'd need to potentially go into the hards is if you collect damage on lap 1 after pit. That might be one scenario where you would maybe go into the hards, but other than that, in a conventional race, like you say, the hard tyres really shouldn't see that much usage.
Yeah, hard tyres are... Well, it's most races really that the hard tyres are really just reserved for incidents in the first lap or the first couple of laps, really. But 2 minutes, 3 minutes to go, not many people coming out yet, so I imagine I'm going to leave it right to the last minute, but we have a Mercedes, and we have Jay Fletcher, and we have Brown both out now onto their laps. Brown just letting Jay Fletcher pass, so Brown wanting to be the last of the two to cross the line, it looks like.
Big contact with the wall there from Schnitzel as he went round the final corner. And it wouldn't have cost him too much in time, but it'll absolutely mean he won't be doing a second flying lap, which I don't think he would have anyway. He goes up to 9th, risking everything through that final corner, thinking if I'm going to get damage, so what? And he pops it up, splits the two Renaults. Verheyen is doing a lap on mediums, interestingly, and only goes 17th, which, I mean, there is there's over a second gap, pace difference between the softs and the mediums here, so you take that away. If he'd have gone out on softs, he maybe could have gone somewhere in the top 10, but decided not to, which I find slightly surprising.
Maybe he's copying Salty Bear, the new Prospect Tier Championship, and starting from the back and seeing how far he can go.
So it's potentially worth doing. I mean, if a champion has done it, who am I to question that? So we'll see how it works for Verheyen, and he may not stay 17th. He may drop to 18th because Dan Murphy is
out of the session. I'm not sure what's happened.
He's in the pits by the looks of it. Yeah, so
Jay Fletcher about to start his final flying lap with Bryn not far behind.
Just watching
Tom
Hindle
Rowe and Chris having a bit of an argument in the straight over who's going to go first.
Is this a problem? Everyone coming out at the same time for their final lap, so they'll end up fighting over the same piece of track.
Yep, as Jay Fletcher going through the first couple of corners now, about to head out onto the first main DRS straight. So we'll see his split at the end of the first section now. He's just improved by about half a tenth there on his PB, getting that chicane perfectly there. Getting a good run now out of the hairpin onto the back straight, which is flat out. I'm not quite sure how long it is, but I imagine you can gain quite a bit of time down there with the slipstream.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone now on their final flying laps. Hindle popped it into the top 10.
Bryn looks to have given up on his lap.
So no last gasp pole this week for Bryn, unfortunately. And it's all up to anyone else. Can anyone else take the fight to Jay Fletcher? Is he going to lower the benchmark? He might just do so. This is a blinding lap so far from Jay Fletcher. And here he goes through his final sector like a roller coaster at times. The change in direction is absolutely incredible as he goes from left to right. And now needs to position the car perfectly for this penultimate corner. Easy to pick up oversteer on the exit rather, but he held it together nicely. Jay Fletcher around the final corner. This has been an absolutely scintillating lap. A 1:32.5. Well, can anyone beat that? I'm not sure they can.
Well, Chris is on his flying lap and he's going to the end of sector 2. He's 2.5 tenths up on his time. So unless he was an absolutely flying final sector, I don't see him challenging Jay Fletcher. Tom Robbo's hit the wall coming out of the hairpin at the end of the main straight, or the big straight. Nick has finished qualifying in P5. Scorpion now coming through the final sector in the last couple of corners. His teammate is crossing the line and it's going to be P2, 33.1, almost 7 tenths off. Here comes Scorpion now, and it's going to put him P5, so he's crucially qualifying ahead of Nick here. Tom Robbo peeling off into the pits. The only man still on a lap would be Hindle, but he has abandoned his lap.
So that is that for qualifying, and I have to say, what a lap time that was for Jay Fletcher at the end. I believe his initial 1:33.1 would have been good enough, but then to take 6 tenths off that, and we saw the majority of that lap, it didn't look like he put a foot wrong.
Yeah, it was absolutely spot on lap from Jay Fletcher there, pretty much. To storm his way to pole. So he knows he can win the championship tonight, and he's definitely going for it and taking no chances.
The only slight downside for him is that in terms of the 4 people that can stop him this evening from sealing it tonight, Chris is in second, and then we got Tom, Scorpion and Knowlesy all in the top 6, but I don't think Jay Fletcher will care too much about that. There was a couple of improvements at the end worth mentioning. Ryo Mahoshi put it into the top 10, good effort from the Haas driver, and Knowlesy actually slightly improved his time to move above Nick, and Dan Murphy put 1 lap in to go into P11. But here is your grid for the race. Jay Fletcher unstoppable, Chris in second, Bryn takes third, got Tom Robbo 4th, Scorpion 5th, Knowlesy 6th, Nick in 7th, Ryo Mahoshi in 8th, Rimpe in 9th, Kajman 10th, Dan Murphy is in 11th, Schnitzel 12th, Hindle 13th, Okeke in 14th, Jonas in 15th, Casper 16th, Riley by 17th, and we'll see how it goes for Verheyen, who decided to do his main flying lap on mediums, so we'll see if that tactic pays off for him in the race.
Yep. So we now have to look forward to the 5 red lights going out here in Vietnam, and crucially it's not a very long run to the first corner here, unlike Mexico this week. It's very short, so even if you don't get the best start, you will definitely be taking, well, you should hopefully be holding the lead into turn 1, unless Chris alongside gets an absolutely blinding start.
In terms of, I mean, would you say those starting from first to third downwards, are they on the best side of a grid for the start?
Probably, because that is where the racing line is. They are starting on the racing line, but I think it is down to the drivers as well, as it's not just all down to what side of the grid you are on to determine how good of a start you're going to get. I think it will be down to the drivers mostly to see who gets the better launch off the line.
And I wonder exactly what will be going through Chris and Bryn's mind right now, because they may fear that if Jay Fletcher does lead out of turn 1, he's got the pace to just kind of drive away with this. But of course, with the mandatory 2-stop, that definitely throws a spanner in the works, and the potential for safety cars here is pretty high as well. So this may not be as smooth sailing for Jay Fletcher as he's perhaps hoping it will be.
That's true, and also take into account that qualifying pace doesn't fucking take into account. Sorry about my language there. Also doesn't take into account your race pace as well. You can have good qualifying pace as well as good and not have great race pace. So.
And I don't want to bring up, obviously this is potentially a title decider, I don't want to bring up Brazil 2008 vibes here, but I've just had a look at the chat and Tom Robbo has said that it will be a wet end to the race. So that's another thing to watch out for as well, potentially. And I wonder, will that mean some drivers may delay having their second stop with the promise of rain at the end?
Definitely, we might see some drivers going for the harder compound tyres, hoping to, trying to bank on the rain coming as early as possible for them. So that will be part of the strategy here, because we all know what Codemasters games are like when it comes to their wet weather. It is rather unpredictable, to say the least.
And wow, look at that. So, obviously the top 10 locked in on the tyres that they qualified in. But as for the rest of them, they have the choice. 11th place and 12th place, Dan Murphy and Schnitzel, they have opted to start on softs, with everyone else behind them opting for mediums. And I don't know if someone told Codemasters about One Hub's 2-stop strategy, but they've even got it there. Soft, medium, soft, or soft, medium, medium. But of course, with the rain at the end, will some drivers bank on a change to winters potentially?
I think it could come down to that, yeah. Drivers banking on medium tyre towards the end, well, the intermediate tyres towards the end, so these guys on the mediums will be hoping they can go quite a bit into this race and then box for the intermediate tyres depending on how early the rain will come.
One thing it is worth to mention that this isn't the longest pit lane time loss out there, estimating 19 seconds pit lane loss, so that's not as much as it is quite a lot of other tracks, so that potentially does minimise how much you lose for making a pit stop. But it's still going to be interesting to see how this develops with the rain, because like you say, with Codemasters, sometimes it can come down in buckets, other times it can just, you can see it there, but it doesn't actually do much to the track.
Exactly, and going back to what you were saying about the pit lane time, it's the complete opposite of Silverstone last week really, which has one of the longest pit lanes on the calendar, and now we're to one of the shorter pit lanes on the calendar.
If I had to compare it as well, what I would say about the Vietnam pit lanes, it's a lot like the Canada one in the sense of you basically cut out turn 1 and feed it into turn 2, which I think is what helps the lack of pit lane loss.
Yeah, it gets you up to speed and really for the perfect amount of speed just to carry into that next corner. It gets you a better line into the corner as well, into turn 2 basically, so
Jay Fletcher has led them round on the formation lap, and all the cars starting to slot into play. 28 laps of this track, so many things can happen. Potentially we could be crowning a champion tonight, or it'll be going to Mexico for the penultimate round next week. We shall see. But how will Jay Fletcher cope? He looks very smooth in qualifying, but anything can happen over the course of a race distance. The green flag is waving at the back, so we are ready to go. The lights will begin to illuminate, and when they go out, it'll be time to let battle commence here in Hanoi for the Vietnam Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go. It looks like a very good start from Jay Fletcher. Chris was slightly slow away in comparison, and may come under attack from Bryn. Jay Fletcher leads us into turn 1. Bryn's going round the outside of a Ferrari. It's going to be a brave move, pushed slightly wide, it has to be said, but still looking to maintain the move. They're going side by side all the way through this long turn 2 corner, but now the Ferrari's turn to go off the road, and there's side by side action going behind too with Tom and Scorpion, but it's Jay Fletcher that leads. Bryn is up to second with some hard but fair racing, and Tom Robbo is still fending off Scorpion behind into 4th, but it is super close. And now, oh no, Chris has gone round. There was contact between him and Bryn. They'd gone very hard and very fair up to that point, but unfortunately Chris is round, and that will drop him to the back of the field. And it was just maybe
for Chris is he doesn't have any front wing damage at all, so he got off lucky, and we've got a safety car. We've got the first safety car of the evening here on the first lap. Who would have expected this around our circuit as crazily designed as Vietnam? That would be a safety car right off the bat, basically.
It was a very hardly fought battle between Bryn and Chris, and it was weirdly, when it looked like the move was all but done by Bryn, when the contact occurred, it was a slightly strange one. I think it's one of those where you'd probably need multiple angles of to determine what really went off there, but like you say, the fortunate thing for Chris is he has no damage, but he does now have a lot of cars between him and where he really wants to be. And Jay Fletcher pits.
Yeah, I was going to say we might see a few people pit now for medium or the hard tyres just to go as far into this race as possible. Tom Robbo is staying out. Nick is also in, so Mercedes are double stacking. Let's hope we don't make a mess out of this one. So Jay Fletcher's in, but it's got held a little bit. Here comes Nick now, who is crucially going to be held a little bit, but not too much in the pit. So he is now out. Is he going to be, where is he going to be? Well, where's he going to rejoin on the track now? Is Bryn still behind Jay Fletcher?
In fact, even worse for Bryn, he's behind Scorpion as well. So Scorpion's leapfrogged to the AlphaTauri during that pit stop phase. And where's Jay Fletcher come out?
Jay Fletcher is just ahead of Bryn, is he? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
there we go, it's reset,
Scorpion, yeah. As what it says, been a little bit of a issue with the timing sheets, but the Ferrari's split. both Jay Fletcher and Bryn here. Tom Robbo staying out as well as Dan Murphy. So everyone else basically has come in, I think, unless Chris has stayed out as well, maybe.
Chris has stayed out, yes. Unfortunately for him, he's dropped. He's actually behind some of the guys who have pitted. So he's down in 11th, if the timing's right on that one. Just try and see.
I'm surprised he didn't pit, to be honest. I'm quite confident the Ferraris had the gap. Double stack quite comfortably there.
What's surprising for me is some of the medium tyre starters have pitted. Verhaenen's gone into a set. A lot of drivers have actually gone onto softs, which is slightly surprising. I didn't think that would be the way to go, especially some of us. I mean, Knowlesy started on softs and he's gone into another set of softs. So
a couple of people switching up strategy, maybe. Some of the soft runners, and well, some of the guys who started on the soft and some of the guys who start on the medium are switching strategies here.
What the problem is going to be now for Jay Fletcher and the likes behind them is that they're essentially going to have to try and make their way through these medium tyre runners who have stayed out. And this is maybe what Tom and Dan, who have stayed out on softs, are hoping for. The hope being that maybe they can drive away on the restart while others fight behind them.
Yep. Chris is now into the pits now, so starting on not coming in right after the safety car. It's going to drop him right to the back now. So, bit of another odd strategy from Ferrari, which at this point is quite normal from the Ferrari team, to be honest. They're known for their questionable strategy calls.
Absolutely, and I'm a little bit surprised, especially with the promise of rain later on, that we've seen absolutely nobody go onto the hard tyre. So still everyone's sticking with the softs or the mediums, and the hard's still left on news. But maybe for someone like Chris, taking a hard tyre would have been worth a gamble at this point.
Probably. Maybe they're all confident enough that they can get the medium tyres to last the distance, considering we're going to have a couple of laps under safety car, which will eliminate some of the tyre wear they're going to have on those mediums. So might be able to extend the stints a little longer on those tyres now.
This is a place where Tom Robbo would like to be. He's out in front. If it's fair to say, qualifying hasn't been the best for him so far this season, but he had a decent qualifying tonight, and ultimately now he's put himself in a place where he's got an open road in front of him and he can try and potentially drive away. He's got Dan behind him, who isn't a slow driver, of course, but Tom probably has the pace advantage on him. And the safety car is in this lap, so it'd be interesting how Tom Robbo gets on here, and this could be a chance for him. But of course, these two have still got 2 stops left to make.
Yeah, the restart is going to be crucial for Tom Robbo and Dan Murphy to see how big of a gap they can pull in these next 6 or so laps they have left on their soft tyres before they're due to come in, because the strategy usually calls for the soft runners to pit around lap 8 or 9, so I imagine they'll be coming in around the same time, maybe a little bit later, so you're going to need to pull quite the gap during this little bit of a here before they have to pit, if he's wanting to keep the lead of the race here. So
we're back underway. He has absolutely gone, Tom Robbo at the front, and we're back underway. Who's been slightly sluggish on the restart, I wonder? It looks like Riley Byes has actually had a bit of a sluggish restart, but he's still in front of Okeke, but he's dropped a little bit to Hindle. And the trick here, and one to look out for here, is Jay Fletcher, who is on the back of Jonas, and also Bryn, who's right up behind Scorpion and will want to get that place back as soon as possible.
Yeah, Bryn looked to have been leaning up and move on Scorpion there. He's going to deploy the ERS now on Scorpion, but Scorpion's going to have the slipstream off Bryn's rival in the Mercedes ahead of him, which is crucially going to keep him ahead, as Jay Fletcher is now all over the back of Jonas. But the question is, will they be able to get past, considering Jonas will have the slipstream of the 2 cars in front of him? But it's not going to matter, as he's a bit too far back, as Jay Fletcher's going to put that Mercedes, he's going to use his Mercedes engine to his advantage here. He's now on the back of Okeke, and he's going to send it up the inside into the hairpin, and Scorpion looking to try and follow him through on a Keke who's lost the back end a bit there. Scorpion has his ERS in overtake. Is he going to try and send it? No, he's going to be patient here, Scorpion. He's got to hold Bryn for a little bit longer, so Bryn will not be happy to be stuck behind both the Ferrari and the Renault in front of him.
Jay Fletcher knows how crucial this is to get on with this. He's made 2 overtakes already, and you can just see, look at the gap that Tom and Dan have already built out up front. They've already got 3 seconds on Hindle, so he's making his way through the pack quickly, Jay Fletcher, probably because he knows he needs to. And he's trying to...
the pits.
Jonas Pitts. I wonder if he may have picked up a bit of damage there, because he seems to lose a lot of positions there.
And keep an eye out. He is changing his front wings, so the Red Bull of Jonas has picked up a little bit of damage. I'm not sure what from, but Jay Fletcher is now all over the back of Riley by, so he's going to try and get him into the chicane here. Will Riley put up the fight up the inside? Yeah, he's going to keep on fighting now. But Jay Fletcher giving him a little bit of a squeeze there, but Riley will have slightly better line and the slipstream coming down the straight. He's going to try and get past, back past Jay Fletcher here. Possibly he's going to have to send it into the hairpin, and he's going to get this move done.
Further behind we've got Bryn and Scorpion going side by side. They're still behind Okeke, but Bryn's had enough.
Trying to go around the outside of Jay Fletcher here. Jay Fletcher's going to squeeze him out a bit there. A little bit rough from Jay Fletcher there, pushing the Williams off towards the barrier. Bryn past Scorpion has now got to get past Okeke in that Renault now. He crucially gets past as soon as he can. Okeke is really quite slow through this final sector, it looks like. Bryn closing up quite a bit now.
And it's gone slightly under our radar, but there's been a swap for the lead. Dan Murphy's now in front of Tom Robbo. We didn't quite catch that, unfortunately.
Side by side with Okeke now. Bryn's up the inside into the final corner now.
That's not a traditional overtaking spot.
Yeah, Okeke doesn't look to be fighting it and just accepting that Bryn is the quicker driver here, so Bryn's really going to have to get a move on if he wants to catch Riley in that Williams.
And Knowlesy's now trying to take advantage and go up the inside of Scorpion. Scorpion really not having the best of things on this restart. And it looks like Knowlesy may have just got past him as well.
That'd be the soft tyres coming in as the advantage for Knowlesy there to be able to get the move done. They're both going to have DRS. Will Scorpion send it? No. But he's had a little nudge up the back of the car from Nick there, pushing Scorpion a little deep into that corner there.
I think Nick's got damage after we saw lots of debris fly up at Mercedes, and it looks like he's got some damage on the, I want to say, left-hand side of his wing.
I think it might be both sides of his wing.
I wonder if will that be worth a pit stop. I wonder as Jay Fletcher moves up to third past Hindle. Hindle tries to fight him around the outside.
Knowlesy is past Okeke now, having gone up the inside into the hairpin. As Rimpe is now past Nick, who definitely has damage now. So, not a good race from the Mercedes driver, so this is not going to help there. That was a bit questionable from Nick there, trying to send it up the inside of Rimpe and the AlphaTauri, pushing him into the wall, and the AlphaTauri now has damage. So, Nick may be a little bit frustrated there.
Riley and Bryn going side by side. There's action everywhere you look here. Side by side through the final corner. I have to say, Bryn's making that final corner his favourite overtaking spot. And he moves up to 5th. But you can see already Jay Fletcher is moving quickly up the road and has now got nobody in front of him but the soft tyre runners.
Well, Riley has a little bit of a loss in the back end there, as he's going to have DRS on Bryn. But will he be close enough to get the move done? I don't think so, so he's going to have to get it done. If he wants to get back past Bryn, he's going to have to do it down that orange back straight.
And we got third behind. Who is that? That looks like it's Ryo Mahoshi and Okeke running side by side. Okeke takes to the escape road. Ryo Mahoshi looks like he's got the high ground around the outside, but will he be able to hold it? Yes, he does. Lovely stuff. Has a great overhead shot as well, I have to say. Okeke has already collected a few penalties, but it's not all advantage Ferrari in the Constructors' battle, because Chris has had to pit again too.
Yep. So it's going to be down to Scorpion and Jay Fletcher here in the battle for the constructors this round. Unless safety car magic, well, would be perfect for making Chris about now, as Nosey's on the back of Riley Buys now, who is struggling a little bit to keep up with Bryn. Nosey really gaining through this final sector.
Soft tyres coming in very handy for Knowlesy. Can he maybe try and move into the final corner? I don't think he will be able to. That's a Bryn's signature move, but not for Knowlesy on this occasion. I have to say, a bit of a surprise up front. Stan Murphy's not only got past Tom Robbo, which unfortunately I didn't quite catch, but he's pulling away from him as well.
Yep. So, but crucial, they haven't quite got the gap that they need if they're wanting to pit and come back into contention for the race win, as Hindle's within a second of Jay Fletcher now, so he looks to be gaining a little bit on the championship leader here, Hindle.
Knowlesy's going up the inside of Riley. This will be a brave one, but Riley's...
Riley fight back. Squeezed in there.
It's been very intriguing to see how these medium-type runners react to these guys battling with them, but I have to say Riley's definitely been the least submissive one I've seen so far.
Yeah, here comes Scorpion now, so he could look for the double overtake. Here he comes, he's got past Riley, gives Nosey a little tap on the rear end. He's not going to go for the move on Nosey though. Riley's still trying to fight it around the outside. He's just ran out of space there. Whereas Scorpion's now trying to hunt down Nosey on us with his mediums, as Nosey softs will start going off very shortly.
Nicely done in the end from against Riley there. Riley tried to fight it off, but eventually had nowhere to go. There may have been a bit of contact, Scorpion tapping the back of Knowlesy, but I don't think he'll have got any damage from that. Thankfully, Jay Fletcher's now got Hindle out of his DRS, which is absolutely crucial, because if anything, Hindle may come under attack from Bryn shortly.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye out on Scorpion and Riley here, as if you look closely, the rain is coming down already. So it said it was going to come at the end of the race, but the rain is already coming down now.
Jonas is back in the pits again. That could be his second or third stop already. That must be damage, I'd assume, because I don't think it's really ready to go onto inters or anything like that yet. We've just seen the rain start to come down.
Jonas coming in for inters, so he is taking the gamble already and going out on the wet tyres. So I think it might be a little bit early, but Rimpe is also in. He looks to be also taking the gamble on the intermediate tyres. So we've got a couple of people at the back taking the gamble on the inters now.
I almost wonder if for those two it's a case of our race wasn't really going to plan anyway. Let's take a bit of a risk and see what happens with it, as Vahanen moves up the inside of Ryo Mahoshi into that favourite overtaking spot, the hairpin, but he nearly loses the back end of a car on exit, and he nearly took Ryo Mahoshi with him there, but thankfully managed to gather it back up in time. That was really one of those nasty crashes you see occasionally, where one driver loses a rear end and the guy behind him has nowhere to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the attention away from this for a second now. So if you look closely, the rain is coming down quite heavy, and we're nowhere near the end of the race. So as expected, the Codemaster weather system is throwing up a surprise once again, as Schnitzel is in as well as Casper. So these two could be coming in for the intermediate tyres. So it looks like Jonas and Rimpe had the right idea possibly in coming in for the intermediate tyres, as Schnitzel is going on to the inters, as here
so
comes Casper as well. Yep. So a lot of guys coming in for the intermediate tyres already, so I think they might think it's the perfect opportunity to change. So I'd expect Tom Robbo and Dan Murphy to be coming in right about now, because they might have played the strategy almost perfectly.
Well, the trick here is as well, as Bryn looks like he's moving past Hindle. Yes, he does. So Bryn up to 4th. The trick here is, of course, these two at the front still have a couple of stops left to make. How long do the Inters last is the question. Because
yeah, that's going to be a problem. Is they're going to have to stop another. Well, they've still got to stop twice. They haven't stopped yet, either of them. So that's going to be an issue for them. But Bryn is definitely gaining on Jay Fletcher here, who looks to be struggling in the changing conditions.
just see Schnicksel, who's currently right behind Nick, and they're on different tyres. So I'm almost interested to see how these two are dealing with the...
Jay Fletcher and Bryn both staying out. I think Bryn senses the opportunity to get past here. Seeing how much Jay Fletcher is struggling in these changeable conditions, he's almost under 5/10 behind already. Bryn loses a little bit of the back end through the final corner.
It's massive.
Still within the DRS. They're both struggling a bit, but Bryn seems to have the more control out of the two at the moment.
I think it's a strategy mess down at Renault, because Kajman and Okeke, who are already super close on track, are coming at the same time, and surely that can't have been planned.
Is in as well. The other Mercedes is in at the moment of Nick, so he will be the first of the Mercedes cars to take the gamble on intermediate tyres.
Might be worth him going on to intermediates and just feeding it back to his teammate, really, in the situation they're in at the moment. But
here we go. Bryn could possibly get Jay Fletcher at the end of the straight here. He's gonna have the DRS. Gaining. But is he gaining quickly enough to get past? It's gonna have to be an almighty send if he wants to get past. He's not gonna do it. Tom Robble really struggling now as Jay Fletcher's almost...
DRS disabled and Bryn's had a massive moment. Oh, sorry, Jay Fletcher had a massive moment.
Well, Bryn and Jay Fletcher doing a little bit of Tokyo drift out of the hairpin now. Jay Fletcher going deep. Bryn's gonna get him now. Well, Jay Fletcher picks up a penalty for track extending. Bryn will probably... Well, these guys need to pit now. Dan Murphy needs to pit now, which he is going to do. So technically Bryn will be a net P1, it looks like.
And well, the battle for Jay Fletcher seems just to get back to the pits at the moment, because looks like ever since the rain's falling, his pace just seems to have fallen away. And of course, with this being a track that these drivers won't really have experienced too much, it's very likely for many of these drivers, this is their first time driving Vietnam in the rain.
Speeding in the pit lane. The Haas of Liam Hoshi spent the pit lane there.
Oh wow.
So we'll wait and see how these guys further down on the mediums, or on the intermediates, will feed back in.
Oh, I tell you what, the pit lane queue chaos as you were, has caused some massive changes to the field. Hindle is now up to second. Kajman, who pitted a lap early for intermediates, where's he going to appear? He's going to appear just in 6th place. Jay Fletcher has dropped all the way down to 7th.
Here comes his teammate through the final corner. He's going to bunch them up a bit. His teammate isn't really gaining too much in terms of positions at the moment. He's still ahead of Chris, who's had an absolute nightmare of a race.
So look how that's played out beautifully for Dan Murphy out of the pits. He's got an 8-second advantage now. But if you look,
Murphy's still got a pit though.
That's the thing. If you look at those who have made 2 stops, the person who's currently in pole position is Nolsey, who's in 3rd, his teammate.
Yep, I think Bryn showed in Brazil that he's very quick in the intermediate conditions.
Nolsey went for a move on Hindle and just didn't have the space in the end, and it was almost a coming together between them. Nolsey keen to get past the Alfa Romeo quickly, but nearly rushed into it a bit too much. Jay Fletcher's already up to 6 past Kajman. And, well, these conditions have really thrown up one hell of a race now. And, of course, for some of these drivers, they've still got to stop again, whereas others can go to the end. But for many of these drivers, like I say, it could be their first time driving in the rain at Vietnam. So for these, it's very much like it's a walk into the dark almost for many of these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a learning experience for quite a few drivers this evening, as Hindle is just able to keep it ahead of Nosy here, and without the DRS it is going to be quite difficult for the McLaren to get past. There's Tom Robo sitting behind him, who also has Bryn hunting him down. So we're turning into a bit of a train now, as Jay Fletcher's still about 3 seconds off, but Nosy all over the back of Hindle now, trying to find a way past, unable to, doesn't get the great run, which is going to let Tom Robbo find a way past here possibly.
Going on board with Tom Robbo then. He looks for a move down the inside, he's going to go for it. So Knowlesy suddenly looking at P2, he's almost going to lose P3, this is so close, and in these conditions, it's such a narrow corner at the best of times. And Bryn is going to try and sneak past a pair of them.
Bryn looks to have got the move done as well. Has got the run down the straight, but Knowlesy's going to have the slipstream. He's going to pull to the inside. Oh, scraping the wall a little bit. Bryn's going to have to fight this if he wants to keep his third position. And being a net P1, he's going to go round the outside now. Knowlesy trying his best to push the AlphaTauri off, and he picks up a penalty there for track extending. He's still trying to find a way past.
It's super close between these three. It's such a narrow part of the track as well. Bryn now trying to hold on to fourth ahead of Tom Robbo, but Tom Robbo does have to slot in behind in the end. But Bryn forced slightly wide, picked up a very harsh penalty in these conditions, it has to be said. But
yeah, Bryn might be able to appeal that in the stewards for being forced off the track a little bit by Nosy.
Yeah, that'll be one for definitely stewards to look into. But of course, one driver, this is all playing into the hands of very nicely, is Dan Murphy, because the more these guys fight, the bigger advantage he can gain before he makes his other stop.
Yeah, he's going to try and build out that gap as much as he can now. As Hindle's just holding on and trying his best to be a nuisance for him, but Hindle's also got to stop again. So he's also got to use these guys squabbling to his advantage. He's got Nosy about a second behind, Bryn about 5 to 6 tenths back from Nosy at the moment. He's going to want to get past that McLaren as soon as possible now. So he might set it up into the hairpin at the end of the straight.
And this could potentially get even busier, this fight, because you've got Jay Fletcher and Cashman quickly joining it, and Scorpion as well. So this could potentially become a 7-way fight here, and things could get messy.
Yep, as Nosy looks to have got the run on Hindle now, coming down the straight using his overtake mode. Will he get past the Alfa Romeo? Nosy's rear light is flashing and showing he doesn't have much deployment left. He's going to try and sneak it up the inside, slightly tapping the back of Hindle there. And Bryn is all over the back of him now, but Bryn is still doing a little bit of Tokyo drift out of the hairpin.
Oh, and
there's Nosy gone bleak. Bryn's got to find his way past now. The same thing Jay Fletcher done at the same corners, letting Bryn through once again.
Knowlesy did well there to avoid the back of Hindle, but unfortunately couldn't get it slowed down in time, and Bryn takes advantage and gets P3, and he may fancy his chances of getting past Hindle. But all the while, Dan Murphy's advantage now of over 10 seconds as these group of cars fight it out. And I have to say, how the race has changed. I think how close Dan and Tom were on the same strategy. It just hasn't worked out for Tom at all, really, because he should really be up there in second, arguably.
Yep, the strategy call. Well, I think Tom might have got held a little bit in the pits. He's now looking for a way past Nosy, trying to count on that McLaren, making a mistake now. He might have the run now. He's all over the McLaren's gearbox. He's going to deploy all of his ERS now, try and get the McLaren in at the hairpin. Is he close enough to send it? Yeah. Will he do it? He's going to try and sneak it up the inside. McLaren and Nosy giving him the space here. So we'll try and do a switchback and get him up the inside through the hairpin. So what a move from Tom Robbins.
That's super sneaky. Fair play, that's a great move. Even sneakier, almost sneaky, but I didn't notice it, is Bryn has already cleared Hindle and has pulled away massively, so that's potentially a thorn in Dan Murphy's side. And you got Jay Fletcher joining in as well.
Yeah, I think Bryn's move on Hindle must have compromised him down the straight to let Nosy catch up that much. Hindle is trying to fight back against Nosey, but Nosey has the place. But Hindle's going to try and send it back up the inside now. We've got yellow flag set to free. Rimpey has retired from the race. These two are still scrapping. Hindle's in the wall now after bouncing off the rear wheel of Nosey there.
I'd love to get a good camera angle to see if he's got damage. I'm going to guess he has. And yeah, he's into the pit, so it's a disaster for Hindle.
Jay Fletcher now sneaks it up, is now up to 5th now after struggling initially in the wet conditions. Doesn't look to have the pace of Bryn in the wet conditions.
No, I was going to say, ever since the rain's fallen, he just hasn't looked as comfortable as some other drivers out there. I don't know if it's maybe the setup he's got, or just maybe just not as comfortable in the conditions, but ever since the rain has come down, Jay Fletcher has not had that same pace.
Looking back for another battle, Scorpion is closing in on the back of Catchman as we've got yellow flags in Sector 1, Sector 2. It's a slow car, I'm not sure how.
I think that's still Rimpey, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's Rimpey's ghost car maybe, out on the wet tyres.
I don't know why that hasn't been cleared yet, but nevertheless, Scorpion right on back of Cadgeman. And
yeah, I think his car's just pulled over to the side now.
And if it was one driver who benefited from pitting the lap earlier than everyone else for the Inters, it really was Cadgeman, as Scorpion goes to his outside. But Cadgeman holds his line well. Scorpion will go for the better exit, but there's nowhere for him to go with it. And Cadgeman, for now at least, maintains P6. But yeah, just going...
Well, I thought he was going to send it, but he's put Catchman on an awkward line there. Rimpey leaves the session now. Still stuck behind that Renault of Catchman, and he wants to get as close to Jay Fletcher as he possibly can to reduce the loss in the Constructors' Championship.
We saw just how much the drivers were struggling when DRS was disabled at the final sector. And Catchman pitting that lap earlier for Inters really worked out for him, because he meant he had the tyres that were ready for those conditions when he got to that part of the track, and he gained so much out of it. His teammate would have done as well, but unfortunately, of course, he had to queue behind him.
Yep. As it looks to have died down a little bit now out on track, as Catchman sliding a little bit through turn 1, but he's not going to let Scorpion catch up all that much, really.
And I guess the test now, what these drivers will be thinking about is, if they don't need to stop again, can I get these tyres to the end?
Well, Dan Murphy is still going, keeping the gap about the same. I don't think Bryn is pushing that much. I think he might know that the McLaren ahead of him still has to pit again, as well as the driver behind him.
What might be worth just looking at now as well is who's got fastest laps in and outside the top 10, because I don't think those are going to be improved on now, looking at the conditions. So Dan Murphy is set for an extra point inside the top 10 at the moment, and Chris has got the fastest lap outside the top 10, so potentially those guys have already got 1 point in the bag.
Yep. So keeping an eye on track, we've not got many battles. The closest drivers on track right now would be Riley Buys and Ryo Mahoshi in the last 2 point scoring positions, and Scorpion and Kajiman when they're coming through the final sector. Scorpion just can't close enough, it doesn't look like.
Just looking at the moment, with an estimated 19-second pit lane loss for Dan Murphy when he pits, he's probably going to come out exactly where this Cadgeman Scorpion battle is.
Yeah, so it's going to be crucial. If these guys are able to go side by side, that'll be a bonus for Dan Murphy, and he should slot out in 6th place. As Bryn's gained a little bit, but not much. Jay Fletcher still struggling to get onto the back of Nosey, who's going quite wide now, but not going to be enough for Jay Fletcher to really get onto the back of that McLaren. He's still just struggling for pace, it looks like. So for somebody who has absolutely mighty pace in the drive, looks to be struggling in the wet conditions, so he must clearly not be putting in the wet practice.
Yeah, Jay Fletcher just, at the moment at least, I mean, he's still quite close to Nosey, so the opportunity for P4 is there, but of course he does have a penalty, which is going to come into play. This battle for P6 is really intriguing, though, because if, like I say, if we do really start fighting, it will help Dan Murphy, because on fresh intermediate tyres, the last thing he can afford is to come out in the middle of a battle like this.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely crucial. Scorpion just cannot get close enough.
Oh, but Cashman's ran wide!
Well, missed his braking zone slightly. Catchman is going to allow Scorpion to slot past now. So will Catchman be able to get back past? That is the question. As he's locked up now, trying to sneak his way up the inside, but he's going to drop back to round about where Scorpion was on him.
Dan Murphy pits.
So we'll keep an eye out on where he's going to rejoin, as Vahanen is now caught up to the back of this battle between Scorpion and Kajiman now.
Tom Robbo's in as well. He's going to rejoin a lot further down now, but of course it is wet this track now.
Dan Murphy's on wet.
Dan Murphy's on full wets.
Maybe they know something we don't know.
Well, that's either going to go one or two ways. That is either a genius call, or it's going to go disastrously wrong. I feel like there's no in between with this.
No, we're going to have to see how he's. Well, what his pace is like compared to Scorpion behind. So, fresh wets versus slightly worn intermediate tyres. So.
Well, I think due to the fact that it is wet, it's actually worked out pretty well for Dan Murphy, because he's come out actually just behind Knowlesy and Jay Fletcher. But how are these wet tyres going to cope?
That's what we're going to have to keep an eye on. It looks to be gaining a little bit through certain parts of the track, but we'll wait and see. Bryn's in the lead of the race. Jay Fletcher just over a second behind Knowlesy. He's trying to pressure that McLaren into making a mistake, but Knowlesy won't crack, it looks like. It's going back down the field. Scorpion and Kajiman have managed to pull a little bit on Vahanen, who's still trying to find a way past that Renault. He's sliding out the hairpin now. He's about 5 times back. As Kajiman drops back from Scorpion.
I tell you what, Dan Murphy's now all over the back of Jay Fletcher, so he may have just made an inspired strategy call here.
Yep, knows he's in. So he could be copying his teammate now. Bryn doesn't appear to be having too many problems. I say that as he slides around the final corner and smacks his rear tyre against the wall.
It looks for a second like Dan Murphy was going to try and move on Jay Fletcher there, but there's just no room for it. And obviously with the pace he's got on those wets, he doesn't need to risk.
Out onto the full wet tyres now. Dan Murphy is gaining quite a lot on Jay Fletcher. So this looks to be an absolutely genius strategy call from the McLaren team. We might see one of the rare strategy blunders from Mercedes here. He looks to have got a much better exit there, and he's going to try and send it up the inside into the chicane. I don't think Jay Fletcher is going to fight it. He's going to let the McLaren go and see if he can hunt down his rival Bryn at the moment. As a lot of people are now in for the full wet tyres.
Well, I'll tell you one driver who's really going to lose out here again is Tom Robbo, because he did make his second stop, but he went on to intermediates, and surely he's going to have to stop again.
Yep, that's going to be a pain for him. He's just got past Vahanen now, who looks to be struggling for grip a little bit. As we're going to wait and see as Bryn comes out of the hairpin. Dan Murphy is gaining quite a bit on that Alpha Tauri now, so Bryn surely got to pit for full wets now.
We'll see, and he should get a lot as well, especially for his final sector, where I think the tyre advantage really will tell.
Kajiman's back end all over the place, out of the hairpin again, but same with Vahanen. Vahanen just cannot get the run, as Kajiman's rear end isn't the most stable out of that hairpin. He's just not able to get the power down.
Bryn is staying out. Bryn is staying out.
That's a bit strange for Bryn. Jay Fletcher's also staying out, so they might be gambling on the rain calming down a bit towards the end.
But look how much he's lost. I'd say in the space of that final sector alone, Bryn's lost over 2 seconds to Dan Murphy. That sort of pace, he's going to be a sitting duck for whoever comes across him. He has
Tom
to pit.
Tom Robbo's got the run on Scorpion down the start-finish straight. He's going to send it up the inside into turn 1 now. And the same with Nosey on Kajiman, so we've got 2 copy and paste moves in the same part of the track.
And I can't believe the other guys are not seeing this. The McLarens have got so much more extra pace, but it just no one seems to be responding.
For wet tyres. As Chris is now fending off Riley down the straight. Chris has front wing damage. It looks like.
Yellow fine sector 3. I think that's Okeke, who's got a problem on intermediates. He's right in the back, unfortunately. Dan Murphy's already up to the back of Bryn, and I can't imagine this is going to be a particularly difficult move to make. He's just got so much more confidence. Bryn can try and fight him off, but Dan Murphy's got the outside line. There's a bit of contact between the pair of them, but surely on traction there's nothing Bryn can do, and there isn't. Dan Murphy gets the move done.
Slides as he puts the power down out of the hairpin.
Well, I have to say, I don't think there's any doubt that the McLaren boys are in communication with each other, and there is no doubt at the same time that they've pulled this absolutely spot on. Knowlesy now has got an opportunity to get Tom Robbo for 4th.
He won't do it, yeah, I don't think he's going to have to wait unless Tom Robbo makes a mistake, and he's going to get the drive out of the corner, but not quite enough to get past Tom Robbo.
Bryn's still not pitting. He obviously thinks track position's just worth hanging on to at this point, but I find that bizarre that he's not pitting. Surely he can see just...
I'm going around the outside of Tom Robbo now. What a move by the McLaren.
That's a sensational move from Knowlesy, and fair play to the pair of them actually, to giving each other the space that was required, but Knowlesy makes the move stick, and yeah, there's still none of these guys near the front are pitting, which I just think it's a bit bizarre, to be honest. I mean, maybe they're just thinking that there isn't too many guys at the front that have gone for this wet tyre strategy, so we're better off sticking it out, but I don't know, I'd be pitting if it was me.
Yeah, we're going to watch now as the gap from Nosey to Jay Fletcher should start tumbling down now.
Well, this is the incredible thing. Tom Robbo was talking about it being a little bit of rain. It's absolutely poured it down. We're on full wets here as a favourable tyre. So once
Chris
again,
is sliding further down the field now. Hindel's got pa. He's struggling with his broken front wing on that Ferrari. So it's a night to forget for Chris this week.
I tell you what, Knowlesy's not going to be too long as he's on the back of Jay Fletcher for 3rd.
Oh, a kickish spun going through the final sector.
So no matter what tyres he seems to put on, he's having no luck or joy out there tonight. And he's just going to get out of the McLaren's way.
Nosey only 2 seconds behind Jay Fletcher now.
And they're coming up to his final sector, which is where I really think those on full wets are gaining the most time. As Vahanen moves up to 7th past Kajman, and if it continues to be as wet as this, Vahanen could be an outside shot here for some really strong points.
Yeah, he's definitely had the right idea of the strategies. Here comes Nosey on Jay Fletcher. He's going to try and go around the outside, and he's going to do the switchback at the penultimate corner, get the better drive and have the move finish going through the last corner. So copying and pasting Bryn a bit through there, trying to get the move done into the final corner.
Well, this could be a masterful strategy here.
Oh, didn't quite get up the inside Scorpion into the last corner, but he'll get it done into turn 1 as he gets much better traction off that last corner.
There's just no way for Scorpion to fend that off on just a tyre difference.
Riley buys on Schnitzel now in turn 1. Turn 1 seems to be quite the overtaking spot now in the wet conditions.
Riley up to 9th place, nicely done. There's a few wet drivers starting to come through the field here. You got Nick, Ryoma Hoshi and Hindle all on wet tyres now, so expect to see a few drivers on the charge here. And I think we're only about a lap or two away before we're staring at a McLaren 1-2 here, because surely there's nothing Bryn's going to be able to do here to fight off Knowlesy.
Nope, because that gap is coming down rapidly. He was about 8-9 seconds at the start of this lap. He's already gained 3 seconds, and he's surely going to gain quite a bit more for this final sector, where the wet tyres are at their strongest compared to the inters.
In terms of a championship, it's fair to say that this will be going to Mexico. Jay Fletcher currently only in 4th place and could drop slightly further down, and with Knowlesy being up there in the championship as well, and him potentially looking at P2, the championship will definitely go on to Mexico at least.
Kajaman into the hairpin at the end of the long back straight. As Jonas is now past Chris as well. So
Bryn pits.
Bryn finally seeing the light, it looks like, and coming in for the full wet. Jay Fletcher will stay out though.
It's just
Tom Robbo also staying out as he's got Vahanen just under a second behind.
I can't help feeling for Bryn. It's about 3 laps too late.
It could be a move on into turn 1 for Vahanen possibly on Tom Robbo. He's got the run out of the last corner. Tom Robbo going defensive, and it looks like he's just let the Red Bull go.
Where's
Scorpion? Brent is coming out now. It looks like he's going to be ahead of Scorpion, crucially.
But behind Vahanen, that just shows how much time Vahanen's gained.
Yep, he's about 2.5 seconds off Jay Fletcher now. So it could be a McLaren 1-2 followed by a Red Bull here. So
well, I want to say fair play to the McLaren strategy team. They've absolutely called a blinder here, and they've turned this into a McLaren 1-2 when really it had no right to be earlier on this race.
Yeah, absolutely genius call on the strategy from the McLaren boys on the pit wall. Bryn now looks to hunt down Tom Robbo, and Vahanen is hunting down Jay Fletcher, and he could possibly be on the back of him by the end of the lap, as the gap is about 1.5, 1.4 and coming down. So could be under a second now, just after the exit of the hairpin. So another move for Vahanen, turn 1 possibly, maybe even sooner. So we'll have to stay on board with this as we're going to follow them through the final sector. Jay Fletcher really struggling, I think he's realised by now that he's definitely made the wrong call in the strategies. Vahanen trying to make the move, not quite able to, but he's going to have a much better run than Jay Fletcher now. And will surely have the move done into turn 1. Here we go. Power down, ERS mode, into overtake, and he's going to fly past that Mercedes into P3. So absolutely genius strategy call from Vahanen again, well, from Vahanen this race as well. And Bryn past Tom Robbo as well into turn 1.
Battling a truckload of oversteer as he did it, Bryn. Nothing, that rear end of it, Alpha Tower, he's been all over the place for a lot of this race, but he makes his way to P5, and you've got to assume that Jay Fletcher's going to be a sitting duck, probably by the end of this lap, I would imagine.
Yeah, Riley is now on the hunt for Tom Robbo, so we could have another Riley move up to P6 by the end of the race, possibly. Nick is gaining on Scorpion and is about 1.5 seconds behind, so he should have the move done by the end of the lap, probably, basing off the tyre advantage so far.
This is a big moment, this, potentially, for Dan Murphy. He's not had the best time of it at times. He started the season in the pinnacle tier, has dropped down to precision, collected a few points so far, but this really could be the start of something for Dan Murphy, because they say, oh, sometimes all it takes is that first win, and it gives you the confidence to go on and do greater things, and that could be the big turning point for Dan Murphy, as Riley has a massive tank slapper coming out the hairpin.
The Scorpion now coming out of the hairpin. He's going to have the move done into the right hander. No, there's going to be a move done probably in the last few corners, and it's not. Scorpion going very deep there, and Nick just claims a position nice and easy there.
As Bryn
Rio
goes...
Mahoshi now gaining.
Bryn moves past Jay Fletcher through the penultimate corner, turn 22. And a simple move, he didn't even have to wait till the final corner this time around.
Here comes Rio Mahoshi now, gaining on Scorpion. He's going to get the traction. Yeah, he's not going to send it into the last corner, Bryn style. He's going to wait and try and get the run into the first corner, but it's not like he's got the best runs. He's going to have to send it if he wants to get past. But thinks better as Scorpion goes really deep into turn 1, and that's going to let the Haas just fly on by into P9.
Tell you what's interesting here though, and this is, there's no tire, I mean the only tire difference here is that Tom Robbo's got fresher intermediates on, but Tom Robbo is charging Jay Fletcher down at a vast rate of knots.
Yep, Jay Fletcher clearly not having the race pace in the wet conditions. I don't think he'll be able to get the move done into the hairpin. It's going to be done either on the exit or through the last few corners. Riley not really gaining on the pair of them though, which is quite strange. But Hindle all over the back of Scorpion now coming down the straight. So we could see a move into the hairpin, but Hindle running out of VRS there. About halfway down the straight, so that's not going to help his chances.
He might just have to wait for a mistake from Scorpion. We've seen a couple already, him just running deep. So he might have to just wait for an opportunity like that to come along. But I have to say, again, it's...
ran over the back of Schnitzel here.
This is for the final points playing position. Schnitzel's still out on those intermediates. And surely there's nothing he's going to be able to do here to stop Kajman making the place up. Nearly goes into the back of him though, Kajman, which wouldn't have been ideal. Doesn't need to do that, of course. He's got the tyre advantage, so he just needs to pick his moment, really.
Scorpion not making any mistakes this time around. So it's gonna have to be an almighty run through the last corner for Schnitzel if he wants to get past.
Yeah, what can Hindle do then against Scorpion again? Not getting the run he needs out the final corner, and as
Jonas is past, as Jonas is now into the pits. So, and Kajman is still over the back of Schnitzel, but unable to get the move done for that last point paying position.
And it could potentially be crucial. We mentioned earlier that Bryn may look to get that penalty removed because he was forced off the road. Well, it could become crucial here because he could get past Verheyen before the end, and then of course it could come down to the stewards as to who gets that final podium spot.
Yep, as Tom Robbo's all over the back of Jay Fletcher here. Jay Fletcher going defensive. Here comes Tom Robbo. He's not going to go around the outside. No, he is. He wasn't going to wait for the switchback. He's just going to drive it right round the outside of Jay Fletcher. He's going to move down another position in P6 now.
Riley buys. Could he catch up to him before the end? It's going to be close. Dan Murphy pits. Which... He's going on. He's going into.
That's a bit.
I don't really know.
Rather strange.
Well, I mean, we're talking big conspiracies here, but Knowlesy is still in theoretically a championship contender. Are McLaren swapping them around?
That's a rather strange way of doing it then. Surely if you're going to swap the drivers, you'd have them do it on track instead of one of them pitting on the penultimate lap.
Controversy reigns here in the precision tier. Zach Brown on the radio. It looks like McLaren have prioritised Knowlesy's championship bid and are going to give him the victory, which is a real shame because Dan Murphy's driven a great drive. But I suppose from a team's perspective, they're going to look at the championship. And that must have clearly been some tactics going on. There's no other reason as to why Dan would have pitted. I can't imagine anyway.
Kajman's still not able to get past Schnitzel for that last point paying position. He's going to have to do it this lap. And it may require an almighty send into one of the hairpins. If he wants to get those points. He's going to try and do it into turn 2. No. Ooh, puts him off a little.
He can't quite get the move done. The door kind of slammed shut there. Schnitzel determined to hold on to it. 17 lap old Inters. He's not doing a bad job, to be fair, in terms of trying to hold him off.
Dan Murphy's gaining on Nosey at the moment, so it looks like intermediates were the right tyre to go for.
He had a 19-second lead, though. It was only one lap to go. It's so real strange one. Nosey's going to come around the final few corners here to win, but this is potentially in highly controversial fashion because Dan Murphy looked comfortable for the win. What's going to happen here around the final corner? Dan Murphy's closing him in quickly. What's going to happen here? Nosey goes around the final corner. He's letting Dan through, so Dan takes the win back. Nosey gets second place. I'm not sure what on earth that was at the end between the McLaren drivers, but it ends as it should have done. Verheyen hangs on to third, so the penalty for Bryn didn't match at the end. Bryn's crashed.
Absolutely annihilated his car across the line or before the line.
Yeah, I think he did it after the line because he's still classified, but he just dropped behind Tom Robbo, so that potentially could be something that is worth going.
I think that's because of his penalty, though. So
yeah, so he may still want to get that removed then because it will gain him a position. What on earth did I just see across the line between Ryoma Hoshi and Scorpion? But they stay as they were, 9th and 10th.
And Kajiman just stuck behind that Alfa Romeo as the track appears to have dried out enough for the intermediates to be the faster tyre again.
So wow, that is the end. McLaren go across the line in formation. That
was rather interesting. McLaren, not sure what that was. I'd quite like an explanation as to what that was from the McLaren team. First of all, what was that strategy call in the first place? But fair play to Nosey for letting his teammate back through.
Well, the good thing is we have driver of the day and the questions we can give, so potentially that could come into it. We'll have to see. Verheyen gets the games driver of the day. I've got to admit, he did do an incredible job, and of course he was the one who qualified on mediums, and it turned out that strategy did ultimately work out for him in a very strange roundabout way.
Yep, it looks to, well, Verheyen looks to have played his strategy absolutely perfectly tonight to end up on the podium now, as the title fight will continue until next week around Mexico.
Absolutely, Jay Fletcher not enjoying the wet conditions and could only manage 6th place in the end. So here's your confirmed results. Dan Murphy takes the win and gets the point for the fastest lap. Oh no, he doesn't get the point for the inside the top 10 because Nick took it away from him by 0.02 of a second. So Nick will get an extra point there to help Mercedes in their constructors fight. Nosey takes second. Verheyen with a great drive into third, taking on the wet tyres early. Ultimately proved to be a great strategy call. Tom Robbo takes fourth. Bryn, in spectacular fashion across the line, takes fifth. Jay Fletcher sixth. Riley buys another one who took advantage of the changing conditions to go into wets early to get seventh. Nick in eighth. Ryoma Hoshi ninth. Scorpion in 10th. Hindle and Schnitzel, the two Alfa Romeos, complete the points. And then outside the points, you've got Kajman in 13th, Casper 14th, Jonas and Chris 15th and 16th. For Keke finished a lap down and Rimpe retired in the pit lane early on. Wow, what a dramatic end to that race. And I'll let you go first with your nomination for Driver of the Day and your question to them.
My Driver of the Day will be Verheyen, and I'm going to ask him, how crucial was your early switch to the intermediate tyres
in
getting your result tonight? And I will pass it on to you. Who's yours?
Well, I have to say Dan Murphy, and well,
just to find out what happened.
Well, that, and I thought he did an excellent job. Obviously, it was an interesting call staying out under the safety car, but it ultimately paid off. He got past Tom Robbo. Unfortunately, never saw the overtake, but he did a sensational job on no matter what the conditions were, and he got the win in strange circumstances in the end. My question to him will be, what was there any team orders at play there, and basically what on earth unfolded in that last lap, because that was rather odd, I have to say, between the McLaren duo. So that would be my question to him, and I'm very interested to hear his response. So that is an end to that. So what a race that was. McLaren's causing controversy Jay Fletcher struggling in the wet conditions. The title is not decided tonight. We do go on to Mexico, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Round 9 next week. Any final thoughts on what we just saw there?
Sheer and utter chaos, just what I expected, but still, what a race that was. Thoroughly enjoyable from start to finish.
Hopefully more of the same next week. So that's it from myself and Liam. Hopefully you'll be able to join us next week. I do hope you enjoyed that race. I certainly did. And I cannot wait for Mexico. So be sure to join us for that 7:45. If you're up for some more racing, the Pinnacle tier is still going on as we speak. So be sure to tune into that. But for myself and Liam, that's it for this evening. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody.